back, everybody. Welcome to another week of Bulletproof Hygiene. We are super excited to have you joining us this week. I hope that you have had a fulfilling week of patient care and team collaboration, and that you are feeling really good about what you're doing, because we as hygienists wear big shoes and we have big roles, and we want to empower you to fill those roles. And we're going to do that even more so today. I am super excited that we are back with our special guest, Amanda Hill, who is just an awesome hygienist on this planet. She's a super cool human, as well as a really passionate hygienist, not only about patient care, but just about all the things we do. We call her the waterline warrior because she cares very much about disinfection and doing things the right way. And this is really important because we should all care like this. We should all be practicing at this level. So she is here to help us a little more this week. And I have titled this podcast Swipe Right. And I hope you aren't coming thinking this is about social media, because this is about talking about our disinfecting wipes and what we're using in our operatories on the daily. And I feel like, using wipes, it's really just one of those things that's so automatic. We really take it for granted. We're not really thinking about it. In the hustle and bustle of our day, this is kind of the last thing on our minds, but I feel like we need to bring it to the forefront because it's a really important part of our day. And if we're doing it right, it's a very helpful part of our day. And I feel like we're kind of stuck in a place, especially coming off of COVID. I know, at least in our practice, we've had some issues with supply chain things and getting the same products in that we have been using for long periods of time. I feel like we're winning at this point if we can just get wipes in, or, whatever it is that we need. It might look different, but we got it. So, okay, let's just go on and move forward. So I think this is really important, because obviously if we're going to practice at the top of our game and we're going to be bulletproof hygienists, we've got to know what we're using and what we're dealing with. And when we see some of these new products come in, we pay attention and we use them the right way. So I really wanted to invite Amanda to share her knowledge and passion for all things disinfection and help us be up to date on wipes. And so, Amanda, I know your heart beats with the rhythm of proper disinfection, which I really love. And that's why you're such a godsend to us. But like I said earlier, wipes aren't something that we really give much consideration to. So tell me what got you curious about them. Where did this start for you?
It actually started with the idea of an article. Jackie Sanders from RDH Magazine said, "Hey, do you want to do an article on surface disinfection wipes?" And I was like, yeah, sure. And I just thought initially, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, what is there to say? Like, we know kill time, like, we know wipe, discard wipe, that kind of thing. Oh my goodness. As I dug in, and I literally had calls with not every manufacturer of every wipe, but all basically the super popular wipes, right? Had calls and listened to them tell me the nuances of their wipe, and, why their wipe was better than another wipe, and what was special about this wipe, and all this kind of thing. And then started reading some kind of hardcore science about wipes. I was like, oh, wow, there's a lot more to this than I thought. Really, for me, a wipe ended up on my counter. I grabbed it. I used it. I probably didn't really even know the kill time if we had switched from one wipe to another wipe. Probably looked at maybe the kill time on the front, which often is misleading because that might be the shortest kill time for HIV and HBV, which we know are really easy to kill, not the TB kill time, which is in tiny print on the back. Anyway, so as I learned and went, oh my gosh, I have been making some really big mistakes when it comes to understanding my wipes. I, again, just didn't think about it. And so it actually became this really amazing kind of deep dive. And I swear, I think I could do a 2-hour CE all on wipes. I don't think anybody would show. They'd be like, oh, wow, that's exciting. But I'm totally stealing the title, Swipe Right Wipe. Swipe
No, please,
right.
Please do.
Say it. Yeah, but it is amazing what we don't think about when we think about wipes. And there's a lot of things to think about. The one thing I want us to remember is these are really harsh chemicals. And I treat them a little haphazardly.
Yeah.
maybe a barehanded grab. I remember one time in a practice I was in, we brought in a kid. I'm going to call him a kid, but he was, he was on his way to dental school. And so he spent a summer with us. And I remember watching him in our central sterile one time, grab a cavi wipe and wipe his face with the cavi wipe, right? But I bet he's not the only one that's done that.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so let's start with, obviously we use wipes, right? Because they're handy and they're easy and it makes sense. So tell me, what are the considerations that we should be thinking about when choosing what we're going to use? Like, what should our wipes be doing for us?
So the main thing that we need our wipes to do is to kill stuff. We need our wipes to kill TB. That's what we call that a hospital grade disinfectant, an intermediate level disinfectant. That was the word I was looking for. Because if there's any blood or spatter present, that's what we have to have. Well, in theory, you could actually have a low wipe and an intermediate wipe, but do we actually always see the blood and spatter? Like, how often have you sat down after you see your next patient? You're like,
right.
So it's just easier for us to stick with an intermediate level disinfectant that has a TB kill claim. That's what makes it an intermediate disinfectant. Interestingly enough, when I had these meetings with all of these different companies and told them what I was doing, they still sent me ones that were not intermediate. I still got some low, and it said hospital disinfectant, but once I turned and actually read the doggone label, there was no TB claim. And then some, like one company, that's all they make is a low level disinfectant. And so I had to go back to RDH Magazine and say, I can't include them in the article. I'm only going to do intermediate level disinfectants because I don't want to confuse people. And then I actually donated all of the wipes to the hygiene school that's near me. And they're going to do it. We're going to go in and we're going to do this whole project about like them reading the labels and figuring out like, so they can find the ones that aren't appropriate, because what a great thing for us to learn. But, so what do we need to look for? So we wanted to have a TB kill claim. Okay. It's also important to think about the surfaces that we're disinfecting.
Yes.
So your chair manufacturer might say, I want you to use this kind of product. Typically, they should just say this kind of product. They don't typically say this. They might say a brand of product or other like it. Typically, if they mention a brand, it's because they make it.
Got it.
But it's a little tricky there. But the idea being, they want you to use this class of disinfectant. Okay. All of these disinfectants affect surfaces. These are intended to destroy cells. They also degrade plastics and metals and all of these things that we use. I'll never forget it. We started using EMS in my practice, the GBT, right? And out of habit, we were all wiping the nozzle with a wipe. It's just habit, right? Well, eventually the entire thing cracked. Why did the entire thing crack? Because you're not supposed to put the wipe on that plastic. It doesn't like it. And we degraded the plastic. And that was an expensive lesson. So it's important to understand what surfaces that your wipe is safe for. This is the hard part. There is no rule. There's no rules around how a company discloses what surfaces are affected by their wipe. So some of it's a little trial and error.
Yeah. And I was just thinking, we have so many different types of surfaces. Like I'm just thinking about my own op, you've got your metal, you've got your hard plastics, you've got your vinyl on the chair, you've got the soft plastic and the tubing. Like there's a lot of different things involved.
Right. So it makes you think, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry.
You're good.
There's a few different classes of disinfectants. The ones we know about, the ones we hear about the most, the ones that are most readily available. We have quats, quaternary ammonia compounds. We have phenols, we have alcohols, and we have peroxygen compounds like peroxide, right? Okay. Those are our basic 4 classes of disinfectants. So you think, and they all affect surfaces differently. They all work differently. So then there's a part of me as I was going through this journey, like, oh, should everybody have a different kind? Should you have one of each kind and be like, okay, now I'm wiping my tray. So I'm, and now I'm wiping, holy cow. You're never
That makes me
peeing.
feel insane. Yeah.
It makes you feel insane. But even worse is now you are playing chemistry. Like now you are going weird science and you are mixing different compounds together. And this is when not only could you be doing something actually caustic, like it could be inhalation wise, could be bad for you, but it also could destroy your equipment. John Molinari has these great pictures of his dental school switched wipes that he was instructing at. They switched wipes. They went from one brand to another brand. They also ended up switching classes as well. And he has these pictures of the chair and how the chair completely discolored. And what the lesson was there was if you switch, like your rep comes in, hey, Charissa, this new wipe is on sale. And your doc's like, yes, sale, we're going to save money. You have to actually get soap and water out, a bucket out, and you need to wash all of the residue because when you bring in that new product, it interacts with the old product. It's the same if you change your waterline products, go back to, to the first podcast.
Yeah.
But funky chemistry happens, right? And you can destroy things. So if you do swap products, you need to clean in between. Frankly, if you actually read the instructions for use for your chair actually might tell you weekly to soap and water wash your chair. It's a really good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. We build up, even if you stick with your quat, you're a quat girl. You always stick with your quats. Your quats are just layering on top. I mean, they all make a residue. So each product is effective between the quat and the peroxygens and the phenols. And the alcohols tend to dry a little too fast. You don't tend to see alcohols all by themselves. They usually get added to other things. But they're all effective, but they all kind of have a pro and con to them. One, like I just said, alcohol dries super fast. So you got to make sure your stuff stays wet for your kill time. And all of them interact with your surfaces in different ways. So your peroxides tend to have a super quick kill time, which you're like, yes, because I need the fastest kill time ever. So I can turn this room over. However, they tend to interact with the most surfaces. So, they tend to, and it's not even just the active ingredient too. I'm going to make this even more complex. It's the inactive ingredients that are in there too, that sometimes you don't even know what the inactive ingredients are. And all of a sudden a company has changed the inactive ingredients. And one thing that wasn't affecting your product is now affecting your product. And you're like, what's happening? So yeah, so it's kind of this swirly gig, like thing to, you're like, okay, well, which one do I pick? And there's no like solid answer. I can't say this is the one for you.
Right.
It's kind of weighing, I don't want to say the worst of the worst, but it is, I mean, all of these things are destructive. And so what is going to be the least destructive to your equipment, but the most destructive to the bugs you're trying to kill?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I thought it was really interesting. I know that you shared with me that the EPA actually uses different phrases for toxicity levels. So I thought that was really interesting. And I didn't know that. Like if it says, warning versus caution on the canister, I thought that was really interesting.
And there's even some that have no label because they don't need one because they're actually a smidge bit safer. So if you have a wipe that has no warning, do not think you can bare hand clean your room because it doesn't have a warning, because you're still dealing with bloodborne pathogens. So let's still remember that. But yeah, so based on its toxicity level, warning would be that kind of moderate risk. Right? Hang on, I got to get this right.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
We have the notes here. Yeah. And so, but then there are ones that have nothing. And the companies will definitely tout that. And they'll be like, we don't have to have a signal word at all because we're that safe.
Interesting. And then you've got caution, which is lower, but not as intense as warning. So it's very interesting.
Right, exactly. But don't drink any of it. And all of it can still affect surfaces no matter what. Right. I mean, so typically the ones that don't have a warning are your peroxides. I mean, you can touch peroxide pretty safely, but it still has a whole lot of inactive ingredients in it and that kind of thing. So when I say touching, I also want to remind you is we need to wear PPE. I mean, again, don't be like Kevin who wiped his face with the wipe, right? But also there is some interesting studies and data out there about the facts that our exam gloves don't protect us like those heavy duty gloves.
Yeah.
And I know nobody likes the heavy duty gloves because they're bulky and they feel funny and it's a whole nother thing. And I gotta get them. But what I want you to think about is that really toxic chemical that you are holding now, is that getting through your latex gloves? We know that latex gloves do have little micro holes in them, right? We know that they're not perfect. Is that getting through? And then is that putting you at risk for, I don't want to be dramatic, but is that putting you at risk for cancers or things like that? Like there's some stuff out there that you can read that will show, people, maybe got higher risk of cancer or things like that, incidence of cancer. Is that from, some of these chemicals that we play with? I certainly remember back early dental assisting when I was in high school, like reaching bare hand into glutaraldehyde. So stuff you didn't know.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you said it earlier, and I think it's so true that we tend to, I feel like as hygienists, we are always in a hurry. Right. And, you've got Mr. Jones waiting out there, and, he doesn't like for you to be late. So there's always that temptation to just like either disinfect too quickly or do it kind of haphazardly where maybe you're, grabbing it with a bare hand. But when we think, like you said, in light of the fact that these wipes are created to kill cells, and we as humans are made entirely of cells.
We're very celly.
Yeah, we're very celly, very cellular. And then on top of that, like you said, you've got all of these inactive chemicals and ingredients that, let's be honest, we don't know anything about. Like I always joke and say, like, I'm a hygienist because I don't really have to do a whole lot of math or a whole lot of chemistry. I took chemistry. That was my lowest grade in school. We're not friends. So I certainly don't understand all of these ingredients or how they interact. So you're right. Like, and I'm glad we're talking about this because I hadn't really thought much about this either, about just using your latex gloves with a wipe and what that can put us at risk for. Because in my research and talking to you, like OSHA and CDC really say that we should wear the puncture resistant gloves along with our masks and our eyewear.
Yeah. I mean, we've all gotten the splash, yes. Right? I mean, you put stuff in the ultrasonic, we've all gotten the splash, right? And Absolutely. That's why we should have that. Do you know how much heterotrophic bacteria is in that? I mean, think about all the instruments that have sat in that ultrasonic cleaner when you pop them in or you've gotten the splash from the wipe, a really juicy, brand new wipe container could be splashy. Right. Yeah. And so those are all things, we really should be in full PPE. And certainly are there, you open up that wipe container, some of those smell, like some of those are like, ooh, that's strong. I mean, so think about how we, open up a carton of bleach, you smell that. We know that can affect people in their, their pulmonary. So can our wipes do that? Yeah, probably.
Well,
so I think,
like you said, so many of them are combined with alcohols. And that, effervesces like into the air. Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's a great thing. You speed up that kill time, which we love, right? It's so good. But again, it's weighing that, figuring out how to do something as safe as possible, but as effectively as possible. So it's important for us to remember that we matter in that equation. I think we often forget ourselves because we care more about Mr. Jones, who doesn't want you to be late. And so what I've done, this is like true confessions today. What I have done is, I know wipe, discard wipe, like I know this, right? Wipe, still wet, but I got Mr. Jones. So now it's paper towel and dry.
Yep. And you just wiped off everything that would be killing. Because it's the drying process that's actually killing, correct?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So, in the very beginning, when I mentioned kill time, it's super important that you know what your kill time is for your product. And it's your TB kill time. Don't be fooled by marketing on the front that says 30 seconds. That's 30 seconds for the stuff that we're not as worried about. Also, another marketing claim to not get sucked into is If you see a canister that says it kills 200, one kills 200 bacteria and the other one kills 201 bacteria, the 201 is not necessarily better than the 200. It's really just marketing.
Got it.
So if it's an intermediate level disinfectant, you're good to go.
Got it.
But
And I want to go back to something you just said, because again, we get really busy and before we know it, we realize maybe we're not doing this in the right way. So I want to just make a big point to have the conversation of that one wipe cannot both clean and disinfect.
Yeah. So another super cool marketing thing is you see wipes that are one step and you're like, yes, one step, that's less steps. One step refers to the disinfection process. So basically every single wipe is either a 2-step or a 1-step. I know that's confusing, but first, no matter what, you must clean a surface. You must remove any bioburden, whether you can see the bioburden or not. We know it's there, right? We see it on our face shield, right? So it's everywhere else. So you must clean first. That's step 1. Then you disinfect. That's step 2. So something that says they're 1 step really is only referring to the disinfect part. You still have to clean it.
Yes.
So hence the spray wipe spray that we learned, or the wipe discard wipe. And one wipe can't do both. Like you can't be like disinfect or clean and then disinfect. It doesn't, like, it's not super powered. It
Right.
can't do that.
So let me ask, do you have any thoughts if you're looking at either wipe spray wipe or wipe, is there a difference between those? And the reason I bring that up is because I remember right after everything opened up from COVID, there was kind of a concern with like the spraying, and that, obviously I don't think that's an issue at this point, knowing what we know now, but, spraying and pushing more of that into aerosols.
Right. So I like a wipe for the convenience, just like you said in the beginning. It's just convenient. I grab it, I go. Some places really love a spray. And actually for proper lab disinfection and things like that, you should have a spray somewhere in your office.
Yes.
If you're using a wipe and a spray, some offices, they love to do an initial wipe with, to clean, and then they love to come back and do a spray and let the kill time sit. Don't mix chemistries. Many
Correct.
companies make both a wipe and a spray in the exact same chemistry. Some, it's the same brand, but it's not the same chemistry. And so you have to pay attention to that, because again, then you're doing funky, weird science and bad things could happen. So I think it comes down to what you like the most. If you're using a spray though, I wouldn't get all crazy. Like, first off, mask or no mask, you're breathing that. Second of all, your technology does not like that. Like it would be like me spraying the computer right now. Like it would not be happy, right? So you're best off to spray, like spraying a paper towel. Like I was cleaning my computer screen this morning and I sprayed into the little cloth and then I wiped, I'm not going to spray directly on. So be sensitive to that, because the stuff that we have is crazy expensive. I mean, that airflow unit I have costs a lot of money. And if I'm just spraying it, woo. So I think some of it just comes down to preference about, whether you're wipe spray or whether you're wipe and then spray, whatever, wipe spray, wipe, whatever works for you.
The only other question,
make your own wipe, by the way.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do that either.
You're not allowed to what?
You're not allowed to make your own wipes.
Right. Good point. On that, so if we are a double wipe practice, we wipe once to clean, we wipe twice to disinfect. Tell me the clean wipe. Are we waiting a period of time for that to dry, or does that not matter?
That doesn't matter.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then I know, obviously when COVID-19 hit, everyone was, we were all really trying to figure out, how do we manage this? What does this look like? So I did just want to mention that we do have a credible source when we do have emerging pathogens coming out. The EPA can help with that, as far as they have a list for, existing disinfectants and what we can use in those cases.
Yeah, this is something that I totally learned, and I learned it from interviewing one of the manufacturers when I was learning about all these wipes to write this article. And I learned about list N and list Q. hang on, do we have which one's which? I'm going to get them mixed up right now.
Top of my head.
Hang on, I think I have it written here. Q list. Okay, so list N came out in reaction to COVID.
Okay.
What list N was they had no idea whether these wipes were going to kill COVID or not. Nobody knew, right? Because at that point, we had no idea what it was. So list N came out as they started to evaluate all of these different disinfectant wipes. Okay, so if you're on list N, then you killed COVID. Well, then the CDC was like, fudgesicle, like this could happen again. We should get a little more prepared. So now they have list Q. So if you go onto the EPA website and you type in that EPA number that's on your disinfectant, first, the funny thing that you'll discover is some of the different brands you'll discover actually the same wipe, which is pretty funny.
Interesting.
They're all just private labeled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a little fascinating. But what list Q will tell you is if it's pre-approved for a tier 1, 2, and or 3 virus. So the next, knock on wood, doesn't happen, but the next thing that comes our way, the CDC will tell us what tier of virus it is. That they can figure out right away. And so they'll be like, oh, your wipe is good for tier, this is a tier 1. So if your wipe says on that list Q that it can do tier 1, you're good to go. But it might not say all 3, or it might say all 3. It's all different, but it's at least some safeguards in place to know right away, hey, is this going to kill? Is this going to kill what we needed to kill? And some manufacturers did at COVID have to go back and change their formulation to make it onto list N. All of them didn't automatically kill COVID.
Right.
It was really interesting.
Very cool. Well, so I think my big takeaways from all of this today is that if we're using an intermediate wipe, we should be pretty safe. But that it's really, really important to read the IFUs, the instructions for use, for both the wipes, but also for your equipment. So you know, yes. And then lastly, to just not mix these things.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then I do want to make sure that we are really clear about kill time. I mean, I think we all know this, right? But the kill time, when it says it, your kill time's 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. That means that surface must stay wet for that entire kill time. And sometimes that requires way more than one wipe.
Right.
I actually, at OSAP boot camp this year, I did a little workshop where I handed them wipes and we timed it. And a bunch of the wipes started drying at 45 seconds and it was a 2-minute kill time. So they had to grab another wipe. And so we did how many wipes did it take? So pay attention to how many wipes it takes. And we know when we get towards the bottom, sometimes we start to get the wipes get a little drier. Charissa, why did the wipes get drier?
Oh, this is probably my biggest pet peeve that exists at our practice is when I walk by and the lid is not affixed.
It's like the baby wipes. I mean, we've all, right? I mean, if you've changed a diaper or you've just grabbed a handy wipe or whatever, like we know after a while they dry out because you don't seal them right or whatever. It's the same thing. You have to close the cap or they dry out. And if a dry wipe kills, well, nothing. It kills nothing.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. It made me think back to the days, this is just dating myself, of how many licks does it take to get to a center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? How many wipes does it take to actually, carry on the kill time? So right. I think that's something we should pay attention to, because I know there's times like I wipe and I obviously see everything wet, and then I leave my room to go do something else, and you come back and it's dry, and you didn't even really think about, how long it was sitting there. So that's something really good to be mindful of as well.
Absolutely. And you want to make sure that the surface is safe. It's safe for our patients. It's safe for us, because, you're touching all of that stuff too. And so, it's really important that we adhere to those universal precautions, because we all know that our patients don't always tell us all the things.
Absolutely. And we're so good. Like you said, I think we're really good as hygienists. We care so much about our patients and what we do for them. And I feel like we oftentimes get put on the back burner. So listeners, if you are listening to this today, if you hear nothing else, obviously we want to do this the right way because we want to take great care of our patients, but there's a big component of this that matters for us individually, personally. And Bulletproof, we always talk about finding fulfillment within our practice. And if we are not healthy because we're not doing this the right way, then that's not a fulfilling thing. So I want to motivate you to really pay attention to this more for yourself than anything else, so that you are safe and protected, whether you're breathing it in, whether you're, it's on your skin. Like, do the right thing. Get yourself some gloves that are not latex. Just keep them in your cabinet, and that way you've got them whenever you need to wipe down your room. That's a first start.
And you can't get the ones at the grocery store. They really should be an actual heavy duty glove.
You should be able to order those from your dental supply company, correct? Yes.
And there's lots of different brands that fit different ways. And so get a few and figure out what fits, what you can.
Yeah. Find a cute color too, just to make it fun.
Always. Always.
Well, awesome. Do you have any other thoughts to leave us with when it comes to wipes besides close the lid?
Close the lid. So if you were like, this is interesting, there's actually an article that's coming out in RDH magazine soon. I think it might be in the May issue that's coming out about wipes. This was where I did all the research. And so there's a great chart. I say great, I made it. But anyway, there's a chart that compares kind of all the brands. It looks at their kill times. It looks at their active ingredients. It looks at the surfaces that they say they affect and don't affect. And so that will be in RDH magazine. You can also find it online when it's released. So if you want to go back and like actually look at this, because sometimes I'm like, I need to look at all of this. Like, I want to see this side by side. That will be available to you very soon. And it'll help you kind of just decide about what wipe is right, so that you can swipe right.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love you. I love your passion for what you do and for helping us stay in the know. And if you haven't joined our hygiene community yet, please do. We have a free download. You just download Mighty Networks, a free app, and then search Bulletproof Hygiene and come join, come be part of the community. If you have any questions about anything that Amanda shared with us, or any input on what's working for you or what killed your equipment, we would like to know that. So come join us. Yeah, right. Come join us and share. And then on the front of come join us, if you haven't signed up yet, we are having our annual Bulletproof Summit this August 11th and 12th in Las Vegas. We're staying at the Wynn, and it is going to be fabulous. You don't want to miss it. So visit bulletproofsummit.com and get all the details, and make sure you sign up. Our early bird tickets are gone, so sign up before all the tickets are gone. So we hope everyone has had a great week. Amanda, thank you for your time and knowledge and passion. And we will see everybody next week. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.